Elevator. The story goes like this. You decide to ride the elevator. You're going up. The murderer will get in with you. He'll wait for you to press the button, and then he'll press the button off the floor right below you. When you get to that floor, the door will open and the murderer will go out. As the doors are about to completely close, he will turn around, and in the small opening between the two doors, you'll see his knife. Then you'll hear him say, "I'm gonna kill you at the next floor." He'll then run up the stairs and wait for you. When the doors open, he will be there to kill you. The worst part is not the death itself, but the sheer horror you'll experience in between those two floors. When you're trapped in the elevator and you know you're going to get murdered. Home alone. The night went slowly with my dad gone for work. I stayed up and waited for his inevitable return. As I laid there in bed, I heard the door creak open. I ran to greet my father and gave him a huge hug. His body felt stiff and his face looked pale. He must have just been tired from work. He turned around and walked into his room. As I walked back to my bed, I got a text from Dad. I checked and my body went numb when I read, "I'm working late tonight, sweetie. I'll be home in a few hours." Who did I just hug? The seventh barn. A wealthy farmer had owned a lot of land and built a new barn on his property every time his wife had a baby. He named each barn after each of his kids, and by the time of this story, they had 6 kids and were expecting number 7. But the farmer's wife died in the childbirth, and so did the unborn baby. They say the farmer in his madness and despair took an axe one night and led his children out to the barns, one by one, and murdered them. He buried their bodies in the 7th barn. It was in the 7th barn that the farmer hung himself. Eventually, as the story goes, all the barns were torn down and the land was sold off. All except for number 7. Nobody would buy the land because of what had happened there. It was abandoned and soon fell into disrepair. They say, if you go to the barn at night, you can see the ghost of the farmer hanging from the rafters and swinging in the wind, dwelling on the terrible crime for all eternity. No one was really sure where the 7th barn was located. It was definitely in Ohio. In 1997, a local Ohio teacher claimed that he had found the infamous barn's real location. He said that none of the barns had ever been torn down. They had simply been incorporated into neighboring farms. The teacher and his son set out at night to visit the barn, hoping to capture some paranormal activity on video. The next morning, the teacher's wife reported her husband and son missing. Police found the abandoned car by the roadside. While searching the area, they entered a barn in the nearby field and found the dead bodies of the teacher and his son hanging from the rafters. The basement. Mummy told me to never go in the basement, but I wanted to see what was making that noise. It kind of sounded like a puppy, and I wanted to see the puppy. So I opened the basement door and I tiptoed down a bit. I didn't see a puppy, and then Mummy yanked me out of the basement and yelled at me. Mummy had never yelled at me before, and it made me sad, and I cried. Then Mummy told me to never go into the basement again, and she gave me a cookie. That made me feel better, so I didn't ask her why the boy in the basement was making puppy noises, and why he had no hands or feet. So I lost my phone. Last night, a friend rushed me out of the house to catch the opening act at a local bar's music night. After a few drinks, I realized my phone wasn't in my pocket. I checked the table we were sitting at, the bar, the bathrooms, and after no luck, I used my friend's phone to call mine. After 2 rings, someone answered, gave out a low raspy giggle and hung up. They didn't answer again. I eventually gave it up as a lost cause and headed home. Where things got creepy is when I found my phone lying on my nightstand right where I left it.